So hello, we are live. Crikey. So welcome to everybody joining us. There's no countdown video. I could do a 5, 4, 3. I could have done all of that, but I want to make sure you get the most out of the session with me this afternoon. Today, we're looking at and thinking about the Global EdTech Awards 2025. It's been brilliant before going live today, catching up with two of our judges. Emma Darcy and Bukky Yusuf, talking about why they like the awards and what the awards mean to them, and all the different things we're going to unpick over the course of the next sort of 30 to 45 minutes or so. I love to engage with the audience, though, so if you're watching, please do drop a little note into the chat. Let us know where you're listening from. Let us know if you've won an award before, if you've entered them, any sort of feedback at all. Lovely to hear from you. But let's jump straight in and bring in our two guests. The first guest needs no introduction, but I will do, because that's what we do. Our first guest is the one and only Emma Darcy. Welcome, Emma. Emma has more badges than I've had ice creams at the seaside, I think. So what I'll do is, rather than do all of the things that Emma's done, could you just share a little bit about yourself and what it is you do and how you support schools beyond your school and all those other things? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Mark. Thank you very much for having me back to talk this afternoon. So my name's Emma Darcy. I'm Director of Technology for Learning at a secondary school in Luton called Denby High School. I've been there for 12 years now on the senior leadership team, supporting the school with the development of digital strategy, and for the last 2 years, AI. So I'm there 2 days a week. For the rest of the time, I work supporting other schools and trusts with developing their AI and digital strategy. And I was really fortunate that 2 years ago now, I won the Global EdTech Award for most impactful senior member of staff, which was a real honour. And then after that, Mark, you asked if I'd be a judge, and how could I say no? So that's how I ended up doing this, and this is my second year returning as a judge.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Emma. And thank you to Ollie, who's tuning in from the UAE. Just a big shout out to Ollie. He's my co-author in this book, actually, the EdTech Playbook. He's also another of our judges. He is judging the ICT Evangelist Digital Leader Award with me this year. To provide a bit of balance and quality assurance on the award. A big shout out as well, and thank you for joining us over in California, Anna. Lovely to have you join us. Any questions you've got, please do throw those into the chat. We're very happy to take those. I've got more questions for you, obviously, Emma, but I'm really excited to bring in someone who was a co-pilot, for want of better words, partner in a brilliant initiative that I undertook back during the pandemic and called UK Edu Stories. Long-suffering friend, Bukky Yusuf. Welcome, Bukky. How are you doing there today?
Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. Good. It's good to be here, actually. And, like doing things, as it says, I'm an EdTech enthusiast by trade and by name, actually. So, my name's Bukky Yusuf. I've been teaching for over 20 years, and I'm a senior leader in a special school on a part-time basis, and also an educational consultant. And of the many different things that I'm involved with, EdTech is one of the things that I love because of the different ways in which it can be used, and because of the fact that I've had experience from strategic leadership. So I was co-chair of the government's EdTech leadership group, which was a partnership between schools and industry experts. And I do things at strategic level all the way down to classroom level about the shortcuts and things that we can actually do to save our time and try and create the most impact with teaching and learning. And I've been involved with the Global EdTech Awards for about 3 years now, Mark.
This is your third year as a judge,
third year. So it's just brilliant. I obviously do. I shouldn't actually say this, but I do judging for lots of different EdTech awards and things like that. It's very clandestine, but I do love the way in which the Global EdTech Awards undertakes it, and I'm obviously going to be sharing more about that later on, which is the reason why I keep saying yes when I'm invited back.
Oh, brilliant, Bukky. It's lovely to hear you say that, because it was being a judge myself in other awards, and again, it'd be crass of me to mention them, but the reason why we do some of the things that we do at the Global EdTech Awards has been off the back of being involved in others and feeling that we could sort of shake things up a little bit and do things a little bit different. So it's lovely to hear from you around both of all of that. Just quickly, because up to you, judge previous categories. What category did you judge last year, Emma? What was your category last year?
So I judged the best EdTech reseller category last year.
Brilliant, thank you. And yourself, Bukky? See, I'm testing them now, look.
Yeah, exactly. I judged the best EdTech company that was more than 3 years old.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you both very much. So that's what we did last year. This year, Bukky, you are, I think, the best school management tool.
That's correct. Yes, yep. I'm really looking forward to that.
Thank you. And Emma, your secondary AI products.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant stuff. So we might talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. I wanted to, and we didn't really say the reasons, but so we touched upon some of them a moment ago with what Bukky said. We're all really very pleased at the Global EdTech Awards that we've received the awards trust mark for our transparency and ethics in the awards. What does that look like from a judge's perspective? Because we had these sort of values running through like a stick of rock, since we started these awards. But what does transparency and ethics look like to you as judges? Bukky first, please.
See, good question. I think transparency and ethics to me, it's the fact that we receive as much detail as we need to, and obviously the submissions that are actually given. And it's really interesting looking at the different levels of information, but we don't know who they're from. And I think that for me is really powerful, because you really have to pay attention to what they're saying and not, basing, I know this particular organization or company or whatever, product. And you look at that through the lens of what you think you know about it. What I love is the fact that it's really open-ended, like anybody can actually come forward for it. But with the Global EdTech Awards, they provide as much detail as possible as given, just to make sure that we look at the entries really clearly. It takes me, I have to go through it at least 3 times to pay attention to it, but I just think it's about as fair and as unbiased as you can possibly make it. And I think that's a really ethical thing, because we are looking solely on the entry, what's been given, and nothing else.
Brilliant, thank you, Bukky. And how about yourself, Emma? What does that mean to you?
I think that, Bukky's summed it up brilliantly. It is that thing, for starters, that you get all that information and it's fully anonymised. So you literally, everyone is on an absolutely level playing field with it before you start. And also as well, I like the fact that there's always 2 of you judging each category as well. So I'm judging with Rachel Dean Poth this year, and it just means you've got those 2 different perspectives as well. So it's not just one person's opinion, even on those anonymised entries. There's 2 of you, and you go through and you're very carefully thinking about, and and you're marking it different criteria and things as well, that are all the things that we should be looking at with awards like this, about sort of the impact they've had, the research that's been done previously, what the future plans are, and I'm talking about it from the point of view of a product, but obviously where you've got, I love the fact as well that you've got recognition for sort of senior leaders, but you've also got recognition in there for support staff, all the different levels of people working in schools and in education. I think that's so important, that it's not just recognizing companies, it's recognizing people on the chalk face working in the schools as well.
Brilliant. I love that you mentioned that as well. Thank you so much. I try and sort of sit above these things. So when entries come in and things, it's the team who sees them and anonymizes them and all that. I don't get to see anything. I've got no idea really what is sort of happening behind the scenes. But I love that you mentioned these school categories, because again, for me, lots of the sort of big awards, things that you see within the EdTech space are often just purely for EdTech companies, or they're looking for sponsorship, and they have big sort of gala dinners that you have to pay to go to, and all of these different things. And we try and say to do things that a little bit differently. There are many different sort of categories within the school. If you are someone who's working in a school, I'll just share with you quickly the sort of different categories that you could enter. There's one for most impactful head teacher, senior member of staff. You've got early years and primary, secondary and FE, impactful support staff member, which could be a TA to someone in reception, to whatever role that is within the support they provide within your setting. There's one around AI implementation. There's one for best network manager, the people who make that magic happen. And then there's the sort of digital leader, ICT Evangelist Digital Leader Awards. So lots and lots there for schools to get involved with there. I wanted to jump to you a second, Bukky. Best school management tool for you. And what stands out for you in that category? What makes you sort of sit up and pay attention? What are you looking for in an entry there?
There are a number of things. First of all, cost effectiveness. Money is, like a contentious thing for schools with shrinking budgets and all the rest of that. So that's one thing I actually look out for. I'm also really interested in the sustainable, inclusive, and accessible aspects as well. I think for me, that is really key because in a way, it provides an opportunity just to get beneath the skin of the rationale of why the organization has put forward what they do. But it could, an opportunity to talk about, for example, who makes up the team and how diverse they are and what they actually bring to, what's actually on offer. And I think one of the other categories is what sets it apart from other tools. I think providing an opportunity for the USP is really key. So they're, the top three I'd actually say that I pay special attention to.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Bukky. Emma, you're doing a secondary AI product. I mean, who isn't talking about AI at the moment? But with so much noise in the space, what are you looking to see from entries there? So things that sort of set the entries apart from others.
Well, I think for starters, I'm going to be very busy, aren't I, this year? I think you're going to be working me very hard on this one, Mark, to be honest. I think one of the things is obviously because it is global awards, I am genuinely really looking forward to hearing from a wide range of different companies, organisations, products. But as you know, and as Bukky is that everybody at the moment AI is everywhere, and every product seems to have AI baked into it. So I really want to, with these entries, unpick that. And again, it goes back to the criteria that we're going to be using to judge these. So it's all the things that Bukky was saying as well. So it's the sustainability of the tool. How inclusive is it? We know that AI can do phenomenal things to support different personalized learning and things. How's that actually evidenced within the tool? Where has the company thought really carefully about why AI is so important as part of this tool, as opposed to just we need to put AI in there because everyone's talking about AI and it's such a popular thing at the moment. That sort of consideration. I know it's so hard about where you're planning to go in the next 12 months, but thinking about ways in which the tool could actually develop over time. And one of the things that we know there's a real shortage of is obviously the evidence of impact around AI, because it is still in education comparatively new. I know, we've been talking about it for the last 2 years in depth, but still it's a comparatively new field. I'm really keen to see the research that's been done, but also the evidence of impact that shows the difference that particular tool has made.
That's absolutely brilliant, and I'll tell you why I think it's brilliant in a second, Emma, because when you enter the awards, each of the awards categories have their own individual entry form. And what Emma's very kindly done before our session, she's clearly gone over, found the entry form for her to category, and then talked it through in the things that she might be looking for. So one of the things I'm going to be doing in just a second, and I'll bring it up right now actually, is I'm going to be sharing some top tips for your entries to help you do well. And, how many times, and you're both teachers like me, right? So how many times do you tell children, particularly this exam season at the moment, read the question, answer the question, right? If you're entering the Global EdTech Awards, and you'll see this in one of the tips in just a second, read the category sections well on the entry form and answer the questions, talk about the things in there. Because whilst we've got two Brits here, we have got judges from right across the world, from Australia to India to everywhere in between. Okay, and what they'll be looking for is people who've entered the awards, looked at the categories, looked at the questions, and then popped it in. And we've had people enter before, and they just put in CVs and put in things like previous entries for other awards, glossy PDFs, brochures, these kind of things. Now, judges aren't going to be able to judge that very well. They're going to have to try and unpick things where they can, all sorts. So a great piece of advice off the bat would be to read the questions in the forms and answer those directly. But let's just dive into these, and please, Emma and Bukky, jump in on any of these if you want to sort of add anything in. And I'll do a big shout out as well, actually. the Global EdTech Awards are supported by, again, recognising the sort of global nature of this, the EdTech Ireland Innovation Hub, EdTech New Zealand, EdTech France. You know, we really do try to make the awards as inclusive as possible. If you'd like to get involved, if you are a business which helps support schools with EdTech, such as those mentioned a second ago, then please get in touch. We'd love to see how we can work with you to share about the Global EdTech Awards. So before I jump into that, I just wanted to spend a moment talking about the awards trust mark as well. I mentioned it before. This is something which is really helpful for us in validating what it is that we do. There's a process involved where the awards are checked for transparency and fairness and all these different things. We were delighted to have received the awards trust mark this year for this 2025 edition of the Global EdTech Awards. So I thought I'd just share about that for a second. But first thing is to choose the right category. So, picking the category that works best for you is really, really important, because there are some categories that you might think of as being quite similar. For example, there's a primary AI product and it's a secondary AI product. So think carefully about, which category already links to strong achievements you've already got, related data or other evidence. And we are evidence-informed awards, and so you need to provide evidence in order to score well in the different categories that you might nominate yourselves for. If you fit into more than one, but have to choose, then pick the one where you have the best chance of standing out. You can enter more than one category. So if you are an AI tool, for example, and wanted, your product spans both primary and secondary, you can enter both of those categories if you wanted to. Okay, but the key thing I would share to you is don't enter a category if it doesn't entirely fit you. If you do, our judges will move you to a more appropriate category. And if you don't fit at all, we might get in touch and say, listen, we don't really think your entry sort of matches that. But one of the other USPs of the Global EdTech Awards is every entry gets feedback. Whether you win your category, whether you're a runner-up, whether you're shortlisted, whatever it is, you get feedback on that entry from our judges, who very kindly write that feedback for you when they do go through that judging process. So choose the right category and use the entry form. I said it a second ago, and answer the questions. We want to give you a really fair crack at being successful. So we anonymize all the entries to try and remove bias. It's interesting. I was reading some research recently. You might like this, both of you. Data Christodoulou was sharing about handwriting bias and how AI tools, because they will use OCR to take away the handwriting and convert it into text. It removes handwriting bias, something which has been proven to have an impact on student outcomes. Teachers, unfortunately, will look at neat and tidy handwriting and look at it and judge it more fairly than handwriting, which isn't. So, do the best you can to help us remove any bias related to what it is that you're doing by not providing just your brochures, but answer the questions, fill the entry form in, and leave those case studies and what have you away, and just give us the right information so that we can pass it on to our judges so that they can do their job of judging. Now, you might feel scared, you might feel a bit daunted. I know I've had conversations with both Bukky and Emma before about a two-word thing, which might be on the next slide in just a moment. Okay. But if you're worried about it being too big a job, then break it down. Gather all the information into one place. Delegate stuff to team members if you've got them. You can sort of answer a question each, and then just focus on one question at a time. And break it down. It's much more achievable if you sort of split up the different activities. And it doesn't have to be a polished entry on the first run through. You can always just throw it down and then sort of tidy it up afterwards and refine and refine and refine as you sort of work your way through. Should that be an issue for you? And I got my slide order wrong, so it's the next slide I mentioned this, where I talk about not feeling pressured or questioning whether or not you're good enough. If you are successful in the awards, I talk about bias in AI quite a bit. And a while ago, if you were to sort of type into an image generator, create an image of a successful young woman, and it would generate, someone who was working in a specific sort of role. They'd look in a sort of specific certain sort of way, and it really gets you thinking about what is success. Where's the biases with success? So success in the Global EdTech Awards doesn't necessarily mean that you're a winner. Okay, it could be the opportunity to reflect on your products and your achievements. It might be you've got an absolutely award-winning product, but you're not, as a team, very good at entering awards, right? And so, we see students, all the time who should get top results who don't do as well as they possibly could because they haven't got the right exam technique and all these different things. So consider, what it means to actually get through in the Global EdTech Awards. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to win. It could be, lots and lots of things, and you get that valuable feedback whether you win or not. And the word I was thinking about was imposter syndrome. Particularly for all of you educators out there, you school leaders, you network managers. Okay, don't give in to it. Don't aim for perfection. Okay, you are good enough, and you'll never know how good you are until you throw your hat into the ring. Okay, it tells out all your best work. So many people, I love Emma and Bukky, right? And even now they were saying, "Oh, I'm just a teacher, or I'm just doing this." You're not just a, okay, you're doing a brilliant job. So see what you can find about how brilliant you are by entering the Global EdTech Awards. I think the final piece of advice is about just being authentic, and we want to hear what you've achieved in your own words. Okay. Now, again, I'll come to Bukky and Emma very quickly. Bukky, Emma, if I presented something that I'd written and something that I got ChatGPT to write, okay, do you think you better tell the difference?
Yes. Yeah, I'd look out for your jokes as well as anything else, Mark.
I genuinely. What about yourself, Emma? Do you think you could spot the difference?
I think it's the thing about telling the narrative, isn't it? It's like, you might give me some very, very polished prose, but would it be actually you behind it telling the proper story? I don't think so.
Absolutely. So, make it your own, put it in your own words. One of our team at the Global EdTech Awards is Liz Barry. Liz, very kindly, and to say what a wordsmith she is, she edited mine and Ollie's book. You can see her name just up here, actually. Okay. And yet she helped me write these, and she missed a word out. Right, so here's me rubbing my hands with glee, but it proves it's her work. And honestly, if you've got a typo here and a typo there, our judges aren't going to judge you down because of that. What they want is the evidence, right? So again, just tell your story. If you want to use technology, then dictate it in. If you're worried about your language, if you're not a native English speaker and you need to submit the entry in English, then just dictate it in your native language and then use a translation tool to translate it. That's absolutely fine, and don't worry about it. But what we don't really want, okay, and I suspect the judges might be quite thrift with this, is lots of copied and pasted sort of generative AI text. So please bear that in mind, because we want to catch you in, not catch you out, okay? So those are sort of 5 pieces of advice there. And again, there are tools out there like Grammarly. It'll help you sort of spot any spelling or grammar errors in your writing. But again, reinforcing that message, it's your voices the judges want to hear. So you'll have seen the little ticker going across the bottom. You can enter the awards at edtechawardsglobal.com. Head on over there if you haven't done so already. But I'm just going to jump back to Emma a second. Going back to that imposter sort of syndrome thing, Emma, what would you say to someone who was thinking about entering but feeling they're not good enough? I mean, you were a winner in the first round, weren't you? Did you enter yourself? Did you enter yourself?
I didn't enter myself. I actually, someone nominated me, and I didn't know who it was at the time. I didn't actually find out until after the awards who it was. So one of the things that was really lovely was it was a real surprise to find out that I'd been nominated. The actual online awards in the evening, when they took place, I was travelling to our Denby Excellence evening, and my train was delayed, so I actually missed part of the ceremony as well. So I also missed the fact that I'd won.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I cried, and literally there was all these people like messaging me saying you won, that sort of thing, and it was just such a lovely feeling and such a nice, I think, nominating someone for an award is such a nice thing to do. So if you're looking at one of those school categories and there's the people that that are not the most well-known, the most recognized, the most out there, the most confident people, it's a lovely thing to do for them to nominate them for something like this. And what I would say as well is, if you're one of the companies, if you're looking at nominating a product, again, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Mark, we're not necessarily looking for the product that is being used by the largest number of end users. We're looking for a product that does something really fantastic, that you've really thought about and really carefully curated, and that does where you can really evidence the impact that it's having. So that imposter syndrome, like you said, it's hard, but put it to one side, because actually, what have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? Whether you're nominating yourself, whether you're nominating someone else, genuinely, what have you got to use? And you could really make someone's day, like someone made my day, if if you nominate someone else as well.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much, Emma. I'm mindful of time, both of you. So let's, I've got another question for Bukky. If someone was just sort of starting to write their entry now, have you got any sort of tips on the best sort of way to begin? I mean, I guess it's sort of begin would be a good thing.
To start. But I think what they could actually start off by doing is thinking about the problem. Obviously, the product platform was actually created for a reason, to state what's the issue that they're encountering and how would their product actually solve this. What's the intended outcome in that regard? And I think that would be a good starting point. And also maybe think about, like, why them? What is so brilliant? I talk about the USP or the spice. What makes them different? And I think if you can just put that down on paper in writing first and foremost, that can then lead to other things about intended impact, about your target audience, and all types of things as well. But start with the issue that whatever you've created is trying to address, and what makes you and the product special.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for that, Bukky. I've got another question for both of you. I've talked about authenticity and sort of being yourself. When you're reading an entry, what does that look like when you're judging things? What does authenticity look like to you, Emma? First,
I think an example of what it doesn't look like. I think I'm just thinking about some of the entries that I read through last year. You can tell when someone has just lifted some text from a website. So, and like you might, they're perhaps that they're entering maybe a few different awards. They're sort of, and to make it quicker and easier, it's not even the using AI. It's the fact they've just taken pre-existing text from a company brochure or from a website or something and drop that in. And I think that kind of really stood out then, that actually, and you mentioned it earlier about, you're not really then answering the question that's been asked. And it comes across much more as like marketing promotion speak, as opposed to you being authentic and telling us about your product. And like I say, I judged a product category last year. I didn't judge a teaching award one, but that was what really came across to me. Not so much has it been written by AI, but has the person really, because again, I think sometimes it's difficult. If you're a company, you're thinking that, that's what we want. We want to hear the sort of, the really product speak, that where you're really sort of as if you were standing there at one of the trade shows selling your product. No, we don't. We want to hear the story that you've been on, the journey that you've been on, and how you've developed that product. And we want you to tell us that story, not just try and you're not having to sell us the product to buy it. We want to know about the journey. We want to know about the story.
No, absolutely right. A brilliant example there. Thank you so much, Emma. Bukky, what about your thoughts? Have you got any other ways that some people can sort of show their authentic self?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Emma said, but I think also you can tell when time and care has actually been, put into the entries, because it's like they are talking to you as the person that is reading, and I think it's really great. And they're talking about, like the learners, they're talking about, for example, the teachers, they're talking about the wider school community and evidence of that as well. So, it comes across, it lends to what Emma was saying about the narrative. You can see about, like why they created this particular thing and the journey in that. But I think that, as I say, time, care, and having relevant evidence as well, that makes it feel more authentic, rather than just like a generic thing that was just done really quickly.
Brilliant points, both of you. And I completely agree. I mean, it's easy to drop in the AI made it sort of bit, but your point about copying and pasting directly from a website and then sort of talking to the audience, as it were, knowing your audience is always helpful, right? So Brilliant advice from both of you there again. Thank you both so much. Bukky, you've seen the award sort of evolve over the last few years. What's been the most sort of rewarding thing for you? Say you've been with us since the get-go, and thank you for your support with that. What's been the most
Yeah.
sort of rewarding thing for you?
Just hearing, like the different things that are out there from a global perspective, and how, I'm kind of, it's really lovely when you hear, like, different members of school community that are actually sharing because of this thing, whatever this thing is. And obviously I've judged like products and stuff like that from companies, because of the company, because of this particular product, this is the difference it's actually made. But hearing it from, like beyond, say, like Britain or Europe, but hearing it from a global perspective, I think is really great. And also having an opportunity to hear about products I would never have actually come across either as well. I think that's really, really powerful in that regard as well. So yeah, there's just a few of the things that I find, really rewarding.
Now, that's something that I've heard a few times as well, about sort of that professional learning opportunity, about learning about new products that are out there that you wouldn't have otherwise found out about. And sometimes that's because of their scale and their size. Sometimes that's because of their geography. No, those are really, really useful things. And I'll just make a point as well, viewers. We don't pay any of our judges for their time, and so they're very, very generous. And it's lovely to hear from both of you, what you actually get from it, because it's not the easiest of things. I've just seen a question come through from Anna. May you please repeat what are the 3 things you're looking for when you are reading the entries? I'm curious to get the perspective of a judge. What do you hope to see other than the stories? I'll pop the question up here so you can both see that a second. And I'm not quite sure whether it was something that I'd said or whether it was something that you'd said, Emma, or something that you'd said, Bukky. Emma, have you got any sort of thoughts on what Anna's looking for there?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer it from the perspective of my category this year, the secondary AI tool. I think it's that thing about the research you've done into the tool before you've developed it in the first place, the impact that it's had, and the evidence for that. And again, I mean, to be honest, it's not just 3 things. There's other things that could mention there as well. The what sets it aside from other products. That's really important. The how is it sustainable and inclusive and accessible, and where you're planning to take it next. But I think while we're talking now, what obviously people who are listening can't see is the fact that when you get the actual entry form, when you're using that, it gives you that framework, so very clearly what the judges are looking for, and that obviously it might be slightly different in each category, but you're given that framework to write to.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'd advise you to do, Anna, because it depends on which category you're looking at, whether it's an educational one or it's an EdTech one, and then variations between each of those as well, right? If you go through to the websites, and you might have seen the address across the bottom a few hundred times during our conversation. If you go through to the categories, you can click through it, and you can download the form as a Word document and look through that before you start filling anything in. And it goes back to that conversation we had earlier about sort of choosing the right category, so you can look and see what the differences are between sort of each of those. Emma, jumping back to you again a second. So you missed the first one. I didn't know that, but I'll speak to you afterwards about that. I'll see you after class, as they say. But you got to see the virtual ceremony unfold last year. We don't have a live gala. We do it all and hold it all online. I get a bit more dapper than I might look today with my dinner jacket on. I'm very James Bond and yeah, danger. But Emma, virtual ceremony last year, what was it like? Being involved in that, and then seeing the reactions to the announcements, and no comments on my hosting, please.
No, it was fantastic, and I did see it the first year, because even though I was stuck on a train, I watched the playback afterwards, so I did get to see in the first year how that unfolded, what it was like when I was announced as a winner. Because I remember, Bukky, you wrote a lovely comment, which was really sweet of you. So I'd still got to see all the thing that was on there. So I had a chance last year to compare it to being on the other side of it and watching it as a judge. And one of the things I think was really nice was, obviously, because it's online, everyone can join. all the judges are there, all the sort of, you know, everyone that's taken part is there, which is really, really lovely. You do make an effort, Mark, with the outfit, with the presenting. You know, it's got that, you know, don't suggest it doesn't have a little bit of glitz and glamour, because it certainly does. It's really well organized as well. I mean, considering there's a lot of judges and quite a lot of categories, I remember it being very, very well structured, feeling very, very well organized. And then you've got that sort of frisson as you go through the categories, and everyone has a chance to just announce who the winners are. And one of the things I enjoy the most is following the comments down the side, because they begin at the start of the evening and they don't stop all night, and it's just lovely seeing how people are engaging with it online as it unfolds. And yeah, I do remember feeling exhausted at the end of it last year, because there was just so much packed into what was not that much time. I mean, how you organise that, I don't know, but it's like I say, it's a ceremony done slightly differently, and but it's lovely that because it is global, everyone can join no matter where they are. And I know last time we had some people joining in the early hours of the morning where they were, didn't they, and everything. And but that it's really inclusive as a result of that, which is lovely.
Oh, thank you, Emma. And I mean, it's lovely to see we've got Brett Salakas, who's from Sydney, Australia. He still comes on and joins us and take parts and what have you. There's some lovely comments sort of coming through again in the chat. We've got Jared. He's saying, I can definitely say as a small company that imposter syndrome has made me hesitate from applying, but thank you for mentioning it. My team will be submitting our application. So look forward to finding out about how you get on. The very best of luck, Jared. As I said, I don't get involved in any of the judging really, apart from my category, and I certainly don't see any of the entries, but please do send your entries in. I'd say everyone who enters gets feedback. Everyone who enters has their entry anonymised, so it levels the playing field. And as I say, Emma was sharing, we hold our awards online, so everyone can sort of be involved. We're getting towards the end of our sort of time together. We've had a few sort of questions already in the chat, but I can't see any new ones. But what I've sort of developed is a few frequently asked questions we get from people. So one of those is, can I enter more than one category? You absolutely can enter more than one category if you want to. You know, like we shared earlier, consider what would be the best entries for you. But if you've got a product which spans two, I gave the examples of primary and secondary AI products. If you've got a product which spans those two categories, then consider perhaps entering both. You know, or if you've got a stronger sort of story from primary rather than secondary, you're still trying to develop your product better for secondary, or you've got more school to talk about in primary, whatever it is, you know, it's up to you with your business and what it is that you do. Don't sort of fret as well about entering more than one category in the education section as well. You know, it could be that you are a digital leader, but you're also a senior leader. You know, you can sort of span yourself across. But I would just go back to that, sort of be your authentic self and write in your own voice and put it across. Whether you're entering for yourself or whether you're nominating somebody else for their brilliant work within your school or setting. Do I need supporting documents, or is the form enough? Is another sort of question. Obviously, we want you to fill in the actual entry form. I believe there's an opportunity for supplementary information if you want to. Did you see much supplementary information in the judging packs that you both had last year? I'll go to you, Bukky. Did you see much additional stuff?
Not really. You know, I saw some, for example, videos that, you know, were given in addition to the testimonials. So, I mean, and it was interesting to see that. But I think from the ones that I saw, most of them didn't really add much to the application, because the videos, in a way, well, you know, rightly or wrongly, came across a little bit of a sales pitch. I was really interested more about what impact, you know, like, for example, the product or tool would actually have on the, you know, on young people. So where additional information was given, you actually had teachers and leaders talking about why they actually introduced this particular product or tool into their school environment, and the impact it's actually having, not just on the students, but also in terms of the professional development, training opportunities for staff, impact across the wider school community. So those things are really good. So yeah, as I say, a tip, don't just include something that sounds like a sales pitch at all, because that really doesn't lend itself, doesn't add much to your category.
Yeah, thank you, Bukky. I'd add to that as well, right? So I mentioned that it kind of, but obviously the entry forms, there are specific questions there, okay? And we use a scoring mechanism. And so, if you put additional material in, it might help. We have to redact it on any of the PDFs and things that you send in anyway to maintain that anonymization. But unless it's specifically, there to supplement things you've already responded to, you're unlikely to get a point or extra points for it because it's not specifically addressing those key sort of things that are on the entry form. Did you find any sort of additional material in your pack last year, Emma, with the reseller category?
Yeah, I mean, and I would agree with Bukky. The bits I actually found most useful were the testimonials that people can submit, because that's where you are hearing from maybe a teacher that's using the product, or some children in the classroom that have been using the product, in my case last year. And that, again, is telling you more of the story, and it's backing up those sections on the form that are looking at things like evidence of impact that the products had. And actually, that, again, was much nicer than seeing a sort of very slick promotional video for a product. Actually hearing someone else's voice as part of the application was really powerful. So I would say don't underestimate that. And it doesn't have to be sort of, it can be a teacher in the classroom that has been using this product and is giving you some really, powerful feedback. That's just as significant than maybe trying to get sort of a big name or something to endorse your product, because it's all anonymized anyway. So that it's that testimonial that is really the key thing. So spend some time on that as well, and thinking about who you would get to talk about your product, and why. What tells the best story.
Thank you, Emma. I think that's a really solid point there. Again, it goes back to authenticity, doesn't it? Right. So yeah, absolutely spot on. Thank you. And it leads quite nicely on to my final sort of frequently asked question, which is, can I nominate someone else's product or tool or school? If you are somebody who works in a school and you want to enter a product that you love into the awards, I would probably suggest having a chat with the company themselves, because the entries for companies are completely free. All the entries for schools are free. But what I would share is, if you are an EdTech company and you've got schools that you're working with, and one of their digital leads is absolutely amazing, and your experience of working with lots of schools, you'll know lots of digital leads or head teachers or network managers, or what a great way to actually shine a spotlight on some brilliant people doing brilliant things in education with your products, than entering them for an award within the Global EdTech Awards. So yes, you can nominate other people's products, tools, or schools, but I would just put that caveat in that it's not entirely free. We try and keep our costs as low as possible, just to make it viable for the time and what we put in. But we're not a business that's out to make loads and loads of profit, as reflected by the fact that we don't have a gala and a big dinner and all these other things. And they got me doing the hosting with my little book of dad jokes. Bukky's laughing already. I've already started writing some new ones for this year. I won't give you any spoilers. But listen, was there anything else that either of you would like to add before we run off and say thank you to everybody for coming along today, Emma and Bukky? Anything else you wanted to share?
I'll just jump in and say, to reiterate the point, for companies out there, if you've got a product across the world, it's a really good opportunity just to showcase what you do and the impact it has on the young people. So just go in for it. And I also want to just reiterate, it's a real pleasure just seeing the time and care that people put into the entries as well, just to show why they think that they should be the winners of the categories they're entering in for.
Thank you, Bukky. Emma?
And I was just going to add to that, for all of us that are like working in the EdTech space, whether you're producing products, whether you're working in schools themselves, whether you're on a senior leadership team, whether you're, spending all your days teaching children, it can be challenging sometimes, it can be a really challenging space to work in. And actually, it's so lovely to nominate for something like this, where you get a chance to champion and celebrate the people that are out there making a difference day in, day out, whether it is through the products, whether it is through the people, and like I say, what have you got to lose?
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Emma. And my key takeaway from what you've both shared there, which I think is quite telling, actually, for three people who love technology as much as we all do, and we do, all right, Bukky's talking about taking time and care and attention, and Emma's talking about shining a spotlight on people. That's what we try and have here at the awards. The tools are brilliant. They're things that enhance what we do. They don't sort of dictate what we do. They don't tell us what to do. And at its heart, these awards are about celebrating people and their ingenuity, innovation, and all those things which help make a massive difference to the lives of young people. So listen, thank you, Bukky. Thank you, Emma, so much. I'm genuinely, I love the fact that you've given us some time to share this afternoon. Thank you to those of you who are have been watching live and asking questions and showing support in that kind of way. If you're watching on the rewind, I'm not going to turn into Craig David, don't worry. And if you're too young to know who Craig David is, don't worry. But if you are interested, please do go to the edtechawardsglobal.com, check us out, and we'd love to get an entry from you in our awards. Thank you all so much. I haven't got a cool outro that goes, on Monday I went for a drink, and on Tuesday I did this, and all those sort of things. But for now, thank you all ever so much for joining us. And again, thank you to you, Bukky and Emma, two of our amazing judges in the Global EdTech Awards. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks, Mark.